The lights of America's Got Talent glowed brighter than ever that night. The crowd was buzzing. The judges were ready. And Simon Cowell, sitting with his usual sharp gaze, didn't expect that what was about to happen would leave him completely speechless. Two young Filipino singers, holding hands nervously, were about to walk on stage and change everything. Nobody knew their names. Nobody expected them to make it this far. But when they started singing, the world stopped for a moment. Simon Cowell leaned forward, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open in disbelief. He had never heard a sound like that before. Welcome back to the channel where we share the most emotional and unforgettable moments that touch the heart and remind us what true talent looks like. Today's story is one you'll never forget. It's about two siblings from the Philippines who came to America's Got Talent with nothing but their voices in a dream and ended up making Simon Cowell press that golden buzzer with tears in his eyes. It all started in a small coastal town in the Philippines. The brother Marcus was 16 years old and his sister Liana was just 13. They grew up in a modest wooden house near the shore where every night the sound of the ocean was their lullaby. Their parents, Arnel and Joy, worked hard to make ends meet. Their father was a fisherman who would go out before sunrise and return after dark, often with barely enough catch to sell. Their mother sold homemade snacks in front of the school to help pay for their tuition. Music was the one thing that kept their family strong. Every evening when the power went out, as it often did, Marcus would pull out his old guitar, its strings worn and rusty, and Liana would sing beside him. They sang old OPM love songs, gospel hymns, and American pop hits they learned from a tiny radio that sometimes worked. Their voices blended so perfectly that even their neighbors would stop by the window to listen. They didn't have a lot, but when they sang, it felt like the whole world belonged to them. Their father always told them, "Someday, my children, your voices will take you far. Never stop singing." But tragedy struck one stormy night. Their father's small fishing boat didn't return. The next morning, rescuers found pieces of the wreckage near the shore. Their mother fell to her knees in grief, and from that day everything changed. Marcus, though just a teenager, took responsibility for his family. He started performing on the streets, in small markets, and even at local fiestas, earning a few pesos. While Liana stood beside him, harmonizing softly. It was during one of those small-town performances that a tourist from California happened to stop and listen. She recorded their performance and posted it on social media with the caption, "These two kids from the Philippines sing like angels." Within days, the video went viral. People from around the world shared it, and soon they received a message from the producers of America's Got Talent, inviting them to audition. At first, they thought it was a scam. How could two kids from a fishing village possibly end up on one of the biggest talent shows in the world? But after some verification and with the help of local sponsors, they found themselves on a plane to Los Angeles for the very first time in their lives. When they arrived at the AGT stage, they were overwhelmed. The bright lights, the massive audience, and the judges' table all seemed like something out of a dream. Marcus held Liana's hand tightly, whispering, "Don't be scared. Okay, well, sing for Papa." Liana nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. They walked out onto the stage barefoot because their shoes had been ruined by the rain the night before. The audience murmured softly, curious about who these two young kids were. Simon Cowell raised his eyebrows as he often did when he wasn't sure what to expect. "Hello," he said. "Who are you?" Marcus took a breath. "Good evening, sir. We're Marcus and Liana from the Philippines." Simon smiled slightly. "From the Philippines? That's a long way to come. What are you going to do for us tonight?" "We're going to sing," Liana said softly, her voice trembling. "Okay," Simon replied. "Let's hear it." The music began. Soft, simple, emotional. They chose to sing "You Raise Me Up," a song they said reminded them of their father. As soon as Marcus strummed the first chord, Lionna's voice rose like a gentle wave, pure, angelic, and filled with emotion. Then Marcus joined in with his deep, soulful harmony. The blend was unlike anything the judges had ever heard. The entire room fell silent. Even the audience stopped breathing. Their voices carried a pain that was beautiful. A story told through every note. When Lionna hit the high notes, her small frame shook and Simon could see tears forming in her eyes. Halfway through the song, Marcus took over the melody and Lionna harmonized above him with perfect precision. By the time they reached the final line, "You raise me up to more than I can be," the audience was on their feet. People were crying. Heidi covered her mouth in shock. Sophia wiped her eyes. Even Simon Cowell, known for his harsh critiques, was visibly emotional. There was a moment of silence after the song ended. Then, suddenly, the entire theater erupted in cheers. The crowd shouted, "Golden buzzer! Golden buzzer!" Simon looked at the other judges, then back at the two young singers who stood on stage trembling and holding hands. Simon stood up slowly and said, "I have heard many duets in my life, but I've never heard anything like this. The emotion, the connection, the raw power. You two are something very, very special." He paused, his voice breaking slightly, "And I think your father would be so proud of you right now." And then, with a small smile, Simon pressed the golden buzzer. The gold confetti exploded from above, raining down on Marcus and Lionna. Lionna started crying uncontrollably, covering her face with her hands. Marcus fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The crowd screamed louder, and Simon walked up on stage to hug them. He said softly, "You deserve this. You've just made history." Backstage, their mother was watching the entire thing on a monitor. When she saw the golden buzzer, she broke down in tears. She hugged the producers, thanking everyone, whispering, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you." After the performance, their audition video was uploaded to YouTube and gained over 50 million views in just a week. People from all over the world commented things like, "This is what real music sounds like. And the love between them is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Filipino communities worldwide celebrated the moment, saying it was a proud day for their country. During the next round, Marcus and Lionna were even more confident. They performed "A Million Dreams" from The Greatest Showman. And the way their voices soared together made the audience cry once again. The harmony, the emotion, and their innocence touched every heart. Simon said after their second performance, "You two are a reminder that talent doesn't come from fame or privilege. It comes from heart, and you both have that in abundance." But behind their growing success was still a deep sense of longing. Every time they stepped on stage, they thought of their father. They said in an interview, "We're not just singing for the judges. We're singing for Papa who believed in us even when no one else did." As the competition continued, they faced tough challenges. Other contestants were older, more experienced, and had professional training. Marcus and Lionna had none of that. They practiced in their small hotel room, sometimes until midnight, perfecting their harmonies and timing. They couldn't afford fancy clothes, so they wore simple outfits that their mother had sewn by hand. But what they had was heart, and that's what the world fell in love with. During the semi-finals, they performed an original song they had written themselves called "Waves of Hope." The lyrics spoke about loss, resilience, and never giving up. As they sang, a video montage of their life played behind them, their small village, their father's fishing boat, their nights under candlelight, and their smiles through hardship. By the end, the audience was in tears. The entire theater rose for a standing ovation that lasted almost a full minute. Simon wiped his eyes and said, "That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen on this stage. You've not only touched my heart, you've touched the world." Their performance became one of the most shared clips of the season, with millions of fans calling them the heart of AGT. But the finals brought even more pressure. The producers had arranged for them to perform with a live orchestra. It was their biggest stage yet. Simon came backstage before the show and told them, "Whatever happens tonight, remember that you've already won our hearts. Just sing like you always do from the heart." They smiled, nervous, but ready. As they walked onto the stage one last time, the crowd cheered louder than ever. They performed The Prayer by Celine Dion and Andrea Belli, a song known for its difficulty and emotional depth. Liana started softly, her pure voice floating through the air like silk. Then Marcus joined her, his tone deep and resonant, wrapping around hers perfectly. The orchestra swelled behind them, and as they reached the final crescendo, the two voices rose together in harmony so perfect it felt divine. When the last note faded, there was complete silence. Then, like a wave crashing against the shore, the entire audience exploded into applause. The judges stood, tears streaming down their faces. Simon Cowell was the first to speak. "I have no words," he said. That was perfection. Pure perfection. The next day, the performance trended worldwide. Major news outlets wrote stories about the Filipino sibling duo that moved America. They didn't win the competition, but to everyone watching, they were already winners. After the show, they received invitations from across the globe, Japan, Canada, the UK to perform. But instead of rushing into fame, they decided to go back home first. They wanted to visit their father's resting place. When they arrived back in their village, thousands of people were waiting at the airport to welcome them. They were carried on shoulders, celebrated like heroes. That night, they went to the shore where the waves gently touched their feet. Marcus placed his golden buzzer medal beside the small wooden cross that marked their father's grave. "We did it, Papa," he whispered. Liana hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "He's watching us, Kuya. I know he is." In that moment, under the starlit sky, they sang once more the same song that started it all. "You raise me up." Their voices carried out over the waves, blending with the wind. It was raw, emotional, and pure. Months later, they signed with an international music label. Their first single, "Waves of Hope," topped charts across Asia and reached millions of streams online. They used part of their earnings to rebuild their hometown's small music school, giving free lessons to children who couldn't afford them. Marcus said, "We know what it's like to dream without resources. We want every kid to know that it's possible." Simon Cowell invited them back to perform on AGT's finale as guest stars the following year. When they walked on stage, now confident and glowing, Simon stood up and said, "When I first saw you two, I thought I'd seen something special. But today, you've proven that your story is just beginning." They performed once again, and when they finished, the entire crowd chanted their names. The world had fallen in love with two humble kids from the Philippines who reminded everyone that greatness doesn't come from where you're born, it comes from what's inside you. Their story became a global inspiration. Schools played their videos in classrooms and young singers from all over Asia started covering their songs. Marcus and Liana continued to perform together, always carrying with them their father's words, "Never stop singing." Years later, in an interview, Liana was asked what the golden buzzer moment meant to her. She smiled and said, "It wasn't just about winning or being famous. It was about telling our story, the story of love, loss, and hope. And to have Simon Cowell believe in us, that meant everything." Marcus added, "People think the golden buzzer changed our lives, but the truth is our father's love already did that. The golden buzzer just helped the world see it." Today, their music continues to inspire millions. They've become ambassadors for children's education and disaster relief in the Philippines, using their platform to give back to the community that raised them. Whenever they perform, they still sing barefoot as a reminder of where they came from. And if you ever listen closely to their live performances, you can hear it. The unbreakable bond between a brother and sister who turned their pain into music and their music into hope. Simon Cowell often says in interviews, "There are moments on this show that define what talent really is." That duet from Marcus and Lyanna, I'll never forget it. It wasn't just singing. It was love, and it was real. The story of Marcus and Lyanna reminds us all that no dream is too big, no loss too heavy, and no beginning too small. Sometimes all it takes is a song and the courage to sing it. Because when you sing with your heart, even the world's toughest judge can't help but believe. And that night when Simon Cowell hit that golden buzzer, it wasn't just the sound of confetti. It was the sound of two dreams taking flight.